Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Reverend Francie. You know, sometimes it hits me more than others how I hope that you enjoy what we do here. Not we, Francie, but what we do here every Sunday morning. I just love it that we have such a blend of everything. I mean, we have the upbeat music, we have the ease, it's the silence, entering into the silence, and we always have a good lesson, I hope, for everyone. But those of you new, I like to start out before I start with my lesson, I like to start with a joke, because in Unity we do a lot of things that are very heady and spiritual, of course. So I like to always remember that there's a brevity to it also. So this pastor was going to use a squirrel in an object for his lesson for some children. And he said, I'm going to describe something, and I want one of you, whoever it is, first one to get it, raise your hand when you know what it is. So this thing lives in trees. He waits for someone to raise their hand, no one raises, and eats nuts. No one raises their hand. It's gray or brown, depending on where you live in the country, and has a long, bushy tail. Still, no one raising their hand. The children were looking at each other, though, at this time, but no hand was still raised. And it jumps from branch to branch. Still nobody. And it chatters and flips its tail when it's excited. Still, no one was raising their hand. Finally, Jimmy raises his hand and says, and the minister says, well, Jimmy, what is it? And Jimmy says, I know I'm supposed to answer Jesus, but it sure sounds like a squirrel to me. Let's say our statements of truth together, please.
I am a child of God. I am deserving of good in my life. I am accepting my good now.
Well, today's lesson is entitled, What is Metaphysics? And a lot of you all are already taking the second course of the first part of metaphysics, so you already know the answer to this, but we're going to go over it a little bit today as a lesson. A lot of people ask that question, of course. Francie even had one. We have one of the signs outside on the front walkway underneath the awning says Metaphysical Bible Study, which we have every Wednesday night. And we also have a metaphysics class on Tuesday morning right now. Evening right now. So, what is metaphysics? Francie had somebody that'll come up and say, oh, during the week, actually even knock on the door, a couple of people knock on the door and wait till we get there to unlock it, because it was on this door. We had that unlocked during the week and this one unlocked. And he just wanted to know what that means. And so a lot of people want to know what it means, and so let's get some clarity around that. What it actually means and what it means to us personally. So what is metaphysics? Many people, like I say, have asked this question, and the answer is really quite simple if you think about it. Metaphysics is literally what it says. It's a combination of two words that have meaning. Meta, which means beyond, and physics, which is a science of study that deals with matter and energy. So metaphysics together simply means beyond the science that deals with matter and energy. In a simpler way of saying it, though, since matter and energy deals with the physical plane that we're in right now, it could be said metaphysics is the study, which more people understand easier, of things beyond the physical. So metaphysics is the study of things beyond the physical. Even though that's a simple and straightforward answer, each of us knows that metaphysics, when we begin studying it, goes much deeper than that simplified understanding and that definition. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, defined metaphysics as the systematic study of the science of being, that which transcends the physical. By pure metaphysics is meant a clear understanding of the realm of ideas and their legitimate expression. And that's from the revealing word. Of course, I've told you many, many times, if you should have a revealing word no matter where you're at on your spiritual unfoldment. And when we study metaphysics in our life, we become metaphysicians. Fillmore gives a very good, solid definition of the metaphysician in, again, the revealing word. It says, one skilled in the science of being, a student and teacher of the laws of spirit. I want to make sure we understand it's a student and teacher. As anybody who has taught knows, when you teach a class, you learn a lot in it anyway, also. So all of us here today are metaphysicians. We are all trying to learn and more accurately remember who we are as a spiritual being. And that's very important to know the difference, because we have to know where we are coming from. Many people come to church for many different reasons, but there's only one underlying reason that everyone comes to church, and that's to learn more about the truth of themselves. In that search for seeing the truth of you, we join in the study of metaphysics, beyond the physical, and become metaphysicians. If we all do this and share in the reason we come to church, what is the point then of knowing and acknowledging metaphysics and recognizing that I am a metaphysician? Well, to answer that question, we have to know that many things, but anybody who's in the medical community or even us as learned beings know that our mind is a wonderful creation. It's a major part of the body that is so incredible that only a combination of things unseen, metaphysical, can create the human body. Now you may say to yourself, and you may think, well, we know how a human is created through procreation. And yes, we do, but that is only the beginning of a choice by two people of expressing a divine idea. The rest of that creation story is a God thing. And that is what we really are talking about when we talk about metaphysics and understanding and learning about life as a metaphysician. And when we talk about God, we really need to get better about opening ourselves up to the idea of what God is. And one of the first ways I offer to you is to open yourself up to God Himself. We all want safety and security in our lives and in what we believe in, and God wants that for you too. Yet we have to be strong enough in our own faith to understand that when we talk about spiritual things, the spiritual realm, not to be hurt or condemning to someone that looks at God and calls God something other than what we call God, God. I said God Himself, but if I said God herself, some people that might offend. I don't think anybody here would, but there are other names for God. But we're talking about the same thing. You've heard of the universe, Allah, Yahweh, Spirit, and many more that you can probably think of fairly quickly. Besides, just don't let this go out of this room, but just between you and me, in our own Bible, there are many names for God. Jehovah, Elohim, Lord, Creator, Almighty One, just to name a few. Let's not tell anybody that, though. We'll just keep that between us. Hush, hush. As metaphysicians, we are here to see God in all things as creation. There are times in our life when this is easier than other times. I was on Facebook the other day this week, and I was reading some things that some Unity ministers were having a blog going about the last Tuesday's election results. And to put it lightly, they were not practicing what they had been taught about divine ideas coming into creation in new and wondrous ways. And we need to be open to, as teachers and students of metaphysics, all ways that God creates. Because see, when we look at something like an election result and have our own opinion, you can have your own opinion, but remember that opinion is from your personality. Your personality is what you grow as a human being. Your individuality is the I am of you. That's your spiritual truth. Your spiritual truth has nothing to do with that. Or it has something to do with it, but nothing to do with your opinion of how the elections, whether you like it or don't like it. In our personal lives, we use metaphysics all the time. That was just one small example. Here's a couple more. When we are envisioning how we are going to improve our lives, that's thinking about something that hasn't manifested yet, When we are driving to work and thinking about how the day is going to transpire. It hadn't happened yet. We're looking at it, we're thinking about it in our mind. Or when we're getting ready for the day, and women do this more than men, at least a lot more than I do. I'm pretty poor about it, but trying to make up yourself into whatever you want to look like for the day. And, you know, some people come up to Francie and I and say, well, you all match today. Well, we match every Sunday because she pulls out my clothes every Sunday. So that's a good thing for me. It doesn't bother me at all. I love it. You see, the study of being may not sound like something that we need to be concerned with. That it will take care of itself, and it will take care of itself. But this is something that we always have to remember. Our being demonstrates and manifests in the world. If we're not cognizant of what we are being as, then it's going to manifest whatever that is. And if we're not connected to our own spirituality on a conscious, aware basis, then we are not expressing and living the best life that is for us. The universe is set up for your success. In creation, God has done that for us. We are the ones that put the roadblocks in our own lives. Let me give you an example. I've witnessed many people do this in something that we can all relate to, maybe. If you've never really related to this, please come see me after church, because I think that you need to be, you know, a little bit more on the prosperous giving side, okay? Let me say that. The story has nothing to do with how much money you make, but I've witnessed many people when they look at their income, then they look at their expenses, and they think to themselves, I need to make more money. I mean, I've done that before. Come on, how many people have done it? Don't raise your hand, don't raise your hand. Everybody's done it. I know everybody's done it. I don't want you to raise your hand. Now, that doesn't have to do, like I said, with necessarily how much money you're getting paid. It has to do with the way we are looking at our present life and where we are coming from. So many people have come to that conclusion that they need to make more money, usually do one of two things in their life. First, they try to figure out how they can get more money from their present job, what they're doing, and how they can make more money. Second, they may try to find another job to add to their income. Now, I'm not saying either one of these are wrong. I think that everyone should be paid a fair amount for the services that they offer to anybody. Yet, what this thinking does is detrimental to the person and does not help solve the perceived problem, which is a lack of money. Now, I just gave you a big clue, of course, of where I'm going with this by making a false statement, didn't I? When we look at ourselves in any area of our life as having lack, then that is what we are going to manifest. It does not make a difference if you have one job that you think you're underpaid at, or if you get 3 jobs and work 18 hours a day. Your financial position will not change here with your wallet, inside your wallet, until you make a change up here. I want to let you know what happens in both of those proposed ideas or cures that I gave you just now, as far as if you thought of a lack of finances. Excuse me. First, if you think you're underpaid at your present job, which, you know, some of us have in the past, whether you ask for a raise and get it or not, you will begin to dislike the job. You'll begin to blame the company that you're working for, or your bosses, for your idea of lack. And soon underperform at the job because they don't pay you enough. You've got this idea in your mind, I'm not getting paid enough. And don't all of us, let's be honest with ourselves. You don't have to raise your hand again. You know, if I feel like I'm not getting a fair shake, am I going to put forth 100% effort? Probably not. In the second scenario, you can work as many jobs as you want, 18 hours a day if you want, but soon you will get to the point of not being very good at any of them. You've heard the old saying, jack of all trades and master of none. But that has to do with more of a physical ability. You know, we can work ourselves to a point where we're just not physically able to continue. And so that hurts our performance in all places. All of us have worked many hours in our careers at some point to get a job done, even if it's one job that we have to meet a deadline. But to do that, on a normal basis is not good for the physical body, especially when it is not our physical body that is the issue. The issue here is what we have put in our own what we have concentrated on, where we have put our mind power. We have put our mind power in these two instances into an idea of lack, which does not exist to begin with. This is how one of those roadblocks that we put in our own life happens. We put an idea out there that's not truth, yet we are giving it the idea of truth, even though if we got rid of that idea in an instant, it would be gone. That's how you tell whether it's truth or not. I mean, if something stands on its own for a long, sustained period, then it's more than likely going to be truth. If it doesn't, which the idea of lack won't, then it won't. It isn't true. The idea of lack, in financial terms in particular, can only be dispelled by learning the truth about yourself and your being. The answer for your financial situation does not lie with the number of dollars that you have. The answer lies with the number of divine ideas you open yourself up to. Think about when you were younger and you did not make as much money as you do now. What's different? Usually when we're younger, we're not that concerned about money. I mean, I was kind of a weird kid. I was always worried about money, but that was just me. But think about when you were younger and you didn't make as much money as you do now. What was different? Well, I didn't have a house then. I was single. I didn't have children. Instead of blaming all these things, though, through this thought of lack that we have to shift our thinking into a knowing that each of those things that we just named off are actually blessings in our life. Because as long as we look at things that way too, you know, I didn't have a house, I was single, I didn't have any children, how does that express? How does that manifest? My children, I'm mad at them. My wife, I'm mad at her. I'm not pleased with my house. When all those things we chose, and they are blessings. When we give most of our thoughts or our mind power to only the things in this physical realm, we not only neglect our spiritual being, we also stunt our growth because we are not allowing the creative ideas in the form of divine ideas to flow through us and manifest in our life. It's not about only having a positive attitude toward life. But if you are having problems or trouble getting there, it is more than okay in my mind to fake it till you make it. It's about seeing the potential in every situation. Sometimes when faced with a difficult situation, if we focus on the physical facts of the situation and don't allow our spiritual faculties to be aware, then we can get discouraged. But always remember that the more difficult the situation, the more opportunity lies there. And we can think about a lot of things in our world situation right now that has a lot of opportunities, can't we? Love is the great communicator in all of them. We lose our power of love when we get caught up in the minutiae of a situation. When seeing beyond the physical facts, we get a clearer picture of the possibilities. I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, but it's happened to me a couple of times, is when you're working on something and you get so involved in it, you really want to find a solution, whatever that is, and you're really working on it, you've been devoting a lot of time, a lot of thought power, and then someone that has nothing to do with it comes from without and just looks at it and says, oh, this and this. It kind of offers it and it's the right answer, and you're sitting there thinking, what the heck was going on? It's because that person was not so tied to the situation, the physical situation. God is in everything. And good can come from anything if you understand this. But we have to be the ones who recognize the good. We have to be the ones who recognize the good that can come from and be birthed from these situations. That is how the power of God shines through us. That is when we are demonstrating who we truly are. That is when we are loving and manifesting truth into a physical reality. And it's not hard. All we have to do is be. We just want to get so involved in all this stuff. Although we demonstrate metaphysics all the time, we have to ask ourselves, are we demonstrating it from an understanding and awareness of how it works? Or are we demonstrating from a sense consciousness that does not take into account the spiritual process? Our beingness has to express as creation. We are made from energy, and energy is always creating. It is the aspect of us that is God. Sam in Metaphysical Bible brought up a good question the other day, and we tried to answer it by saying that, using the example of the cosmos, of the stars and everything. In the universe, in the physical realm, creation is happening all the time, yet we don't see it. The scientists already know, that astronomers that study that already know that there is creation happening, stuff that we can't see, that end up forming gases, and the gases keep forming together, and they form planets, they form suns. All this, it's proven science. But we sometimes forget also where science comes from. Science has its origins, has always come from religion. It's always come from an understanding that there's a lot more out there than what we see. When we go about our daily life, let us ask ourselves what we are creating by our thoughts and actions. Think about what you want in life, and if the actions you take are toward that achievement, it will be achieved. Make sure that you clarify what you are really wanting in life. Sometimes we make the mistake of thinking we want money in life, as examples I've given you earlier. When in reality, what we want is what money can buy. We forget that a lot. And even when it is the feeling that we get when we buy the things that what we want, we have to even go underneath that to find out the underlying thing that we want. And what underlies all those feelings is a deeper spiritual understanding and awareness, and living from that point. So let us take one last example of metaphysics in our life. Say I want to go to Hawaii, which I do one of these days, and see the beauty of everything that I've heard about Hawaii. Immediately when I begin to think about going to Hawaii, and I think some of you do this also, or going to your a favorite place, someplace that you want to go to, I can get a feeling of beauty and peace. That feeling, though, we have to ask ourselves, where did it come from? I'm not in Hawaii, how could I have that feeling? Well, the feeling comes from within me anyway. All that stuff, love, all the wonderful attributes that we have are within us at all times. Are we opening ourselves up enough to experience them at all times? That's the question. Now, I still plan on going to Hawaii sometime. That's not going to stop me doing that. But I will go there with the understanding that anything I see or do there is only sparking something that is already within me. I love it, and I know that a lot of y'all have not been to the Unity Village yet. But when anybody would come there when we were there, or any of the other churches when we'd take a pilgrimage there, I would always tell them, you're going to feel some great energy. I know you did on a retreat, on a youth retreat. But we have to understand that that isn't a place. It isn't a place where we go to have that feeling, to have that understanding, to have that spiritual connection. It is an awareness within us. I mean, maybe we should make a new policy. We need to, every time we come in here, take our shoes and socks off because we're walking on holy ground. Because that statement from the Bible has to do with anywhere you are. And you don't have to take your shoes and socks off. It has to do with you as a spiritual being. So when we end up going as a group to Unity Village, I want you to know that you're going to experience some wonderful feelings, and you're going to be spiritually uplifted, and it's all within you. And that's the reason we need to take you. You know, people say about the village, it's our headquarters, for those of you who don't know, but people say it's because it's all so prayed up. Well, yeah, it is. But so is this place. So are you. Those prayers come from you. And that's the wonder of God. That is the wonder of a universe that is set up for our success. We don't have to have anything. And that is one of the benefits of living this physical part of our life. It's time for us to get excited, to love one another, and to have an understanding that we are with God and God is with us at all times. Know that God is blessing you right now. Amen.